dear President, dear members of NE, Director General, Mr. Panagopoulos, President of YSE. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me to be here today, and I'd like to warmly thank NE for this honorary invitation for yet another forum. So first and foremost, I'd like to congratulate ENE because ENE is quite active. It comes forward with proposals, and I can tell you that as a government and in the Ministry of Labour, we do have examples of proposals that we have adopted, proposals by ENE. So today we are talking about our most valuable resources, the human resources. We need to see how we can better invest in human resources if we are to achieve high rates of growth in the country, if we are to respond to the continuous challenges ahead, in particular in the field of technological revolution. And since I know that time is of the essence, I'd like to engage into the crux of the matter. So if we check the title is really important. So we see bipolar, the non-wage cost and what we can do to reduce this non-wage cost. And on the other hand, we have investing in human resources, the so-called reskilling and upskilling. So we have a bipole. We have two axes. It's clear that we need to invest in both, and a question mark to see whether these two poles, these two axes can be combined. So I'll start with the first one, non-wage cost. There's no company that hasn't asked us to reduce non-wage costs. And I need to be honest, I want to remind you that in our country we had a huge non-wage cost as soon as the government took over in the new democracy. In 2019 we had a cost that was amongst the highest ones. Ever since that time there has been a change. The non-wage cost, and I'm referring to the Social Security, we have reduced it by 5.5. We are expecting yet another reduction by 1 unit, and so we're talking about the biggest one in the EU. So there is an horizontal reduction. But a few months ago we introduced a provision in the Parliament regarding the lowering of the non-wage cost. We wanted to render cheaper overtime and work during holidays. So we had a provision on the basis of which there were no incremental charges in overtime. How were we able to do that? Because we asked for the revenues from these kind of work. So one would collect, our organization would collect only 1%. So there was no need to have this thing. So we thought of a healthy initiative. We had already discussed this with friends and partners, and ultimately the proposal that we presented in the Parliament was a result of this discussion. So we did away with all surcharges. For instance, let's say I work in a restaurant Monday to Friday, and I take 6 euros per hour. Now, if I work on a Sunday, I'll have to get 10. However, what is contributed to EFKA for working on Sundays would be calculated up till now on the basis of 10. But now it will be calculated on the basis of 6. So this reduces the non-wage cost. The result is that in 2 or 3 months' time, we had 48% increase of the remuneration of workers, as well as the revenues of EFKA, because we had increased compliance with the tax law. So I think that this effort should continue. We believe that it further enhances competitiveness and employability, and the government makes every effort to reduce this non-wage cost. That's the first axis. The second axis has to do with investing in valuable human resources in a period where we see radical changes. We heard about artificial intelligence and how it affects the labor market. The truth is that our state does have one answer vis-a-vis the impact of AI in the labor market: reskilling and upskilling. So we need to invest, and we already do this in the Greek government. We need to provide stimulus and to invest in upskilling and reskilling. So how can this be implemented in practice? This is done through an horizontal program that's being undertaken by the Public Employment Service that I'd like to congratulate together with Ms. Hormova. We're talking about 500,000 beneficiaries. We are close to 450,000 beneficiaries for upskilling and reskilling in green and digital skills. So as soon as this program is completed, we'll have almost 10% of the active population of the country that will have benefited from these upskilling and reskilling programs. We have investments in human resources, reskilling and upskilling through the creation of 30 schools of higher vocational training. We have apprenticeship schools, all these technical professions that you all say are missing from the market. So we do offer such specialties through these schools, specialties such as equipment operators, plumbers, electricians, digital analyzers, IT programmers. Let me tell you that the absorption of such graduates is almost 100% in the labor market. Let me share with you a story. A few days ago, we visited Ravenna with Ms. Hormova. Why we have been there? Because there's a carpentry business there that had told us that they can't find technicians for industrial automation. And what we did was we prepared a specialty, and we had an annex of our public school in this specific business operating in there, providing apprenticeship and courses. So as we speak, 30 children from Ravenna do attend this school, and they do work in this business, and they will have a job that's been guaranteed. Why did I mention this? Because this is the example par excellence of the osmosis between the private and the public sector. A few years ago, we wouldn't even dare mention it, but nowadays we see that it's absolutely necessary. We offer from the public sector these specialties that are actually needed in the private sector. We did something similar with the shipbuilding area in Elefsina. So there's this osmosis between the public and the private sector, offering specialties that the labor market is missing. We had industrial PhDs, professional postgraduate studies, vocational postgraduate studies. For instance, businesses say that they're missing such and such specialty, and they go to the university with so many programs, etc., and they join forces. So they prepare a vocational or professional PhD or postgraduate curriculum that is adapted to the needs of the market. Who stands to gain there? Everyone. The university, better absorption rates in the labor market. The business also stands to rate, finding its employees, and of course students stand to gain.
I'm saying all this because, ladies and gentlemen, as we speak, in Greece we have the lowest joblessness rate. We are at 8.1. When we kicked off this effort, we were at 18%. We managed to slash unemployment by 10%. This is the highest such drop in all of the European Union. This is not accidental. It happened because we have been enforcing policies, including one we announced today about the biggest program for subsidy subsidized employment in Greece for 50,000 new jobs. And this has a duration of 6 months. We are doing this on purpose. You know, we are pushing specific population groups that need support. Long-term unemployed people, unemployed mothers. We are supportive of their reintegration in the market, and we will come back in a year's time. It checks out. I mean, it works. We've seen it before. A year later, at least half of them will be still employed. It's important to always pay allowances, not for unemployment, but for employment. We want a society of working people, not of unemployed people. Ladies and gentlemen, dear moderator, we are keeping the non-wage cost as low as possible, and the government will continue in that direction to further slash it. That's one thing. And then we are heavily investing in the valuable human resources. And here comes Ene. Ene said, go ahead and couple those, combine them. This is what they said, more or less. Let's keep the non-wage costs lower. If you have enterprises and businesses that invest in training and education and maybe specific categories of working people. Why am I saying that? Because you see, older people should be prioritized. They need more reskilling and upskilling compared to younger people. This is an ENE recommendation that we are looking into, sir, and we are carefully listening to your proposals with a view to providing more reskilling and upskilling framework for businesses. You see, by way of conclusion, let me say this. Reskilling and upskilling, people tend to think that it should be pushed by the state. I would beg to differ. The state, the government has to invest, but then again, the businesses have to be convinced and they have to do their own, their part. They have to be convinced that they need to invest in their own people, or else we're not going to go far. So on the occasion of this meeting, let me appeal to the businesses of Greece in order for them to eventually invest in skilling and upskilling themselves. This is the best investment they can possibly have. This is the biggest and the most profitable investment they could ever make in their valuable human resources. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.